Hey there. So for the professional learning experiences, I actually have two little clips that I'm gonna show here. The first one I'm gonna show is an actual meeting that we have weekly. Every Monday we have a meeting with the entire staff. It's useful, but it doesn't actually show what's actively engaged as a meaningful and appropriate professional learning experiences. It's more of planning methods for the school, and it's helpful, but it doesn't really teach us how to be better teachers. So that's what we do weekly. On top of that, we have, I'd say, once every 3 months or so, additional little course training things that we have to go through. That's the second clip I'll be showing you. Um, we had to mock that one because we did not record the initial one that we went through a few months back when we switched to the new book. Luckily, the one of the teachers that works there, her name is Tori. She's the blonde in the video. Is actually a corporate or ex-corporate trainer. So I'm actually being trained by corporate in this video, so it's actually legitimate. It's a bit of a mock lesson, but you'll kind of understand what I'm doing.
So, as you have already seen, Vanessa, our new class open for popular class.
Pine class.
Oh, sorry, pine class. Our name
pleasure
is
steering
changed to pine class. And, so for just moving on to graduation, we're going to be having a graduation photo shoot on, I think it's going to be November 20th. I'll let you know if it gets like sooner, but it's going to be November 20th and 21st. So what's going to happen is all
From our phonics workshop we had last week, we're going to begin our Seed 1 Introduction to Sentence Reading mock teaching workshop. In front of you, you have our Smart TV program where you can see the contents of our books laid out on the TV. So today I'm going to start with what we call knowledge activation. We do this so that we can activate students' previous experiences related to the topic. The topic today is going to be based around family. So what we would start with first is, of course, the
Family knowledge activation.
and title.
Title.
That probably makes sense. Yeah, the title.
So let's begin with the
Title.
Everyone, read 3, 2, 1.
Uncle Texas.
Uncle Texas, very good. Now let's follow that up with some questions to break down the title. Can anyone tell me or describe who is an uncle in your family? Is it the same as your father?
The milkman.
I don't think so, Mr.
A
Rory.
boy.
A boy, very good. It is a man, and an uncle is related to you through your mother or father. It is your mother or your father's brother. Do you have any uncles in your family?
The milkman.
Oh, how shocking. What is your uncle's name? My uncle's name is Uncle Mike. What is your uncle's name, Rory?
I actually don't know.
He doesn't have any real
I don't
uncles.
think I have any uncles, but I'm not actually
We'll
sure.
skip you.
Well, maybe you have an aunt.
Oh, yeah.
Who
Wait.
is your aunt?
Kathy.
You have an Aunt Kathy. How about you, Tiffany?
I have an Aunt Kathy too.
Shocking. You have something in common. Do you have any uncles, Tiffany?
I do. I have lots.
Oh, wonderful. Now, class, Uncle Texas. Does anyone know this word Texas? Say together, Texas.
Texas.
Is that someplace in Korea?
It's someplace terrible.
True, I agree. Texas is not in Korea. It is in America. Let's look at this picture together. What country do you see?
America and
It's
a little bit of
America.
Canada.
Very good.
Vancouver.
At the bottom of America, you can see Texas. So Texas is part of America. We're talking about an American family. Now here, let's look at these two pictures. So here we have two pictures and two sentences. We need to match the sentences to the pictures. Please read sentence A, Tiffany.
Teru draws a family tree.
Beautiful. And B, Rory.
Yumi plays badminton with her uncle.
Now let's look at these pictures. If it's picture 1, clap your hands. If it's picture 2, stomp your feet. I'll read now. Teru draws a family tree. Which is it? Ding dong, ding dong. So who is this?
Teru.
Teru, and what is he drawing?
A family tree.
You geniuses. Now I'll read B. Yumi plays badminton with her uncle. Yes. Who is this little girl?
Yumi.
And who is she playing with?
Boy.
The milkman.
The uncle. And what game is it?
Badminton.
Very good. Hands up. Good job, me.
Good job, me.
All right, now let's follow it up with our question. Read the question, Rory.
What do you like to do with your family?
So what does your family do for fun together? For example, my family loves to eat chicken. What about your family, Rory?
We yell at each other.
That's so much fun. How about your family, Tiffany?
They like to drink together and sometimes play games.
Oh my god, mine is the same. And we eat chicken while we do it too. There are so many fun things we do with our family.
Hey there. So I'm doing a quick reflection of what I've learned during Teach Now and in Korea, and where I plan on going in the future, and how I plan to increase my knowledge as a teacher and get better and better. In Korea, I have learned so much from the beginning of this program. I just learning how to talk to my kids, that alone. I thought knew exactly what I was doing right there. Didn't know what I was doing. I've learned to give enhanced feedback. I've learned how to plan my lessons a little bit better. I've learned how to activate their knowledge in different ways. I've what I do with my math lessons now is completely different. How I teach my phonics lessons right now are completely different. I group the students. I give them knowledge based on what they need to know and how they need to know it, instead of just pushing the usual agenda of here's a book, here's a pencil, write at them. I love the progress I've made. That being said, I have a long way to go. Um, for the next 3 years, I have a general plan. I'm going to go teach in the States as a substitute teacher for about anywhere from 6 to 8 months, and then I'm going to move to the UAE. Uh, Originally, I didn't think the substitute teacher would give me any deeper understanding about being a teacher. I thought that was just being a babysitter, basically. But my mentor, Nicole, actually made some really good points to me. I'm still not 100% sure what I want to teach in the UAE. I thought I would just probably teach kindergarten because that's what I teach here, but it's not what I want to teach. Um, Substitute teaching, though, is a way for me to figure out, just kind of shop around. Do I want to teach this age group? Do I want to teach this subject? Where do I want to go? And from there, I can take the praxis and I can kind of align myself to that a little bit later on. So I think that'll actually help me determine a lot of where I want my career to take me. So I think that, in a way, will be very deep understanding and learning. Um, then, when I go to the UAE, that's going to be completely different for me. Because right now, in Korea, I came into this job with absolutely no teaching experience. I didn't get my degree in teaching. I didn't ever set foot in a classroom, but they hired me anyways, just because that's the kind of culture it is. Um, However, now going to the UAE, there is an actual classroom here. These are actual teachers. Everyone around me will have to be a certified teacher. So it's going from like baby school to actual school. And that has a lot of different pros and cons. On one side, where I am right now, there's no standards. There's complete freedom. I get to teach what I want, when I want. I don't have to submit anything to the administrators because honestly, they don't really know what they're doing either. I hate to say it that way. Um, Going to the UAE, though, I'm going to be responsible a little bit, or have to be a little bit more responsible for the kids' learning, if that makes sense. I have to associate the lesson with a standard. I then have to map out my unit plans. I actually have to apply everything that I've been learning here so that I can properly teach these kids because they have really high expectations where I'm going. Um, so I think there's going to be a lot to learn for me, but I think it's going to be a really good application of all the skills that I've gained here in Teach Now. So I'm actually pretty excited for it. Hey there, so this is for our Unit 9 standard something or other. Use of data to evaluate outcomes. So this is me evaluating my class. Typically, I would do this with my co-teacher, but she is actually unavailable right now. So instead, I'm going to talk to my co-teacher, Tiffany. Tiffany is another teacher at the school who, after school, also teaches my class. So she has experience with all my students. In addition, I have up all the test data for each of my students for the past 3 or 4 months. This data covers their tests, their project-based learning, their homework, their VoiceThread homework, basically everything I have data-wise, we've got up here. So Tiffany, thank you for hanging out with me. I didn't really want to talk about all of the kids because I've got kids like Sophia and I don't know Amelia so much
and Rain, who are just overall, actually Rain I'd love to talk about, who are overall just looking at them doing really well. They kind of set the curve in the class, and I can't really say too much about them. I actually wanted to talk to you about a few of my other kids. My three my kind of iffy students are Amelia, Chan, Jay, Eric. So let's kind of talk about, I don't know, how about we talk about Eric first, just because he's always my most troubling student. So just to kind of give you a background, his test scores for the past 3 weeks have been the lowest in the class. Despite covering it for the past, I don't know, it has to be more than that. I think 2 months, about 8 weeks, covering grammar for the past 2 months. He can't really identify a noun, he can't identify an adjective, and he struggles to identify verbs, and we're moving on to proper nouns, and it was during this time, during proper nouns, that I realized he can't do any of it.
Is Eric getting like 30% in grammar?
Yeah. He, looking at him right here, he got a 33 and the class average was 72.
16?
They get a 16, and the class average was a 70 that work, a 16%. So that means out of the 6 questions, he got 1 right. And
Does grammar depend on the week? Like about what your topic is for the week?
well, it's the same basic format for every single test. I give them 6 words, and they know that there are 2 nouns, 2 adjectives, and 2 verbs in there, and they have to use a shape to identify which one. If they ever forget the shape, they're up on the wall over there, so they can clearly reference.
Yeah. Okay.
But he's not understanding grammar, and I'm kind of at a loss.
Well, because the thing is, like, his parents don't speak English either, do they?
His parents.
I'm
Give us a
sorry,
minute. Give us a
you're
minute.
lying.
Recording. Give me a minute. Thank you. Sorry. Thank you. His parents speak a little bit of English, but they're not fluent. His dad speaks more than his mother does.
Okay, so is this something that they can practice with him at home or not really?
Well, this, I don't know about their abilities in grammar, so I couldn't say about that. I know, I kind of want them to actually start taking less of a hold at home, because I found out recently his father has actually been doing most of his Eric's homework, which is why he will be able to score really well on his homework, and even scores well on some of the tests, because they just drill him at home and give him the words and give him the sentences. But when it comes to actual in-class things, he can't do it all. So the parents, I'm kind of fighting with a little bit.
Well, because, like, I'm wondering how much of the grammar thing has to do with comprehension, because we've talked before about, like, his listening and understanding is, like, kind of minimal. And I'm wondering if there's a way that,
Oh, I understand what you mean.
you know, it's like if you're discussing it in class and he's going through the motions, but his comprehension is not really following up, either because he's having difficulty with comprehending the concept or because his listening skills aren't really there.
I think it's both. I'm thinking what happened is his reading skills, when he first came into class, his reading skills were really high, and I unfortunately mistook that as his overall comprehension was high. I found out later 100% wrong right there. No, he can read really well, but he doesn't know what he's reading.
Yeah.
And he's, just because of his own attitude during class and the fact that he's getting so much help at home, like too much help, I don't think he's progressed at all in his listening abilities, just because he doesn't have to. He can go home and ask his parents in Korean, and he can kind of just mimic the other students during class just to get through the day. So I was thinking of devising a voice thread to test him on his actual listening comprehension, and I know his reading comprehension isn't there. I see it every day.
Well, I'm wondering, okay, so like if you're focusing on grammar specifically with like parts of the types of words, like nouns, verbs, and adjectives, I'm wondering if it comes down, number one, because he doesn't have like vocabulary in English. Like his reading is there, but like does he not even understand what these words are?
That's the thing. He's capable of reading them, so I know he can read them. The words are taken from words that were from the previous lesson. So these are all words he's seen before. But after coming back and talking to him, like because they have to do test corrections as well, and he'll bring it back the next day, and there will still be a few incorrect answers even after he's worked on it. And I realized even after practicing the words in the previous lesson, knowing what they mean, he comes to the test having absolutely no idea what the word means, and then he's not able to define it.
I have an idea.
Yeah.
Okay, last year we used to have a book for after school, like seed and all that, where they would connect the Korean word with the English word.
I know that one.
So I know that we're trying to like keep the Korean out of it so they can understand the English word in its own context. But I think you could send a worksheet home for Eric. And what you could do is basically have it be like a gluing worksheet. So like here are the squares, glue it in the adjective section, glue it in the noun section, glue it in the verb section, or however he can sort it. But have Tara or whoever can do it write the Korean word next to it, because if he doesn't understand what the word means, see if he can understand the concept of how to sort them. If he like knows what an adjective is, he knows what a noun is, he knows what a verb is based on like how that's defined, and then see if he can just sort out these words. Maybe the vocabulary is confusing him. And if he can do that, then he'll demonstrate he knows what those three kinds of words are.
Okay. I actually love that idea.
Chan.
Chan, yes. Chan, Chan's an odd one. He tests, if you look, he doesn't have any greens or reds. He tests right in the middle. He's on the curve. He's doing well. Book presentation, Chan is failing. Not failing, but he has some of the lowest averages in the class.
Why? Is it presentation, like speaking, or is it comprehension of the story?
Give me a second, because I've got Chan's stuff over here, the rubric I use, and I can't quite recall what Chan's issues are. Okay, so looking at my rubric, Chan is at a B2, book level B2, which for... No, for my class though, it's where they're supposed to be.
Oh,
like,
that's right. Okay.
C2 is actually supposed to be our max. So he's at B2, and he's, honestly, that's still within the recommended range, so he's not doing anything poorly there. Chan's biggest issues, okay, so for this, I grade them on 4 main categories: summarization, presentation, answers, and sentence structure. Chan, this is something that we've been really trying to do, like these early scores, these 50, 58, 66%, were because of a few main issues. One of the biggest ones was his presentation was just terrible. He didn't understand that he wasn't supposed to like completely turn his back to us. He would talk fairly low, didn't know what he was saying, blah, blah, blah.
So I'm wondering if, what is important to you here? That they are reading the most challenging book that they can, or that they are learning how to present and formulate properly?
I see where you're going with this one. The formulate presenting, and that's why I keep knocking him between levels. Like, he keeps jumping between a B2 and a C1. And I think recently, he might have hit that C1 level, and that might be what that was about. So I knocked him back down to a B2. He can't handle that level yet.
So, like, my recommendation might be for Chan, because I've noticed, like, when I have history class with Chan, his ability to understand the concepts is good.
Yeah,
His, like, especially when we discuss stuff that's, like, a bold concept, but if it's, like, minimal, he kind of just gives me the look until he gets prompted.
Yeah.
And then his ability to talk about it is, like, really minimal. So, I feel like if you wanted him to practice speaking more, give him a book that's quite easy for him to read through.
Okay.
And then go with the basic questions. But I know you give them a reading project sheet, right?
What do you mean by that?
So, like, it has basic questions. Like, we formulated that sheet together. So, write the characters, write the setting, and then follow it. Number 1 happened, then, and then next, and then last. Like, 4 pictures that plot the story, right? So you could have him fill that out. And then if, like, since he could get it done quickly because the reading would go by fast, he could have extra time, even if this is just for Chan because he's struggling, he could have extra time to turn to his partner, and you could say, Chan, make a sentence, like he can use this as a reference sheet, and make a sentence and tell your partner what happened in number 1.
To address the understanding of cultural, ethnic, gender, and learning differences portion of this standard, I'm going to give the obvious answer. I have a completely homogenous class where all of my students are Korean. Because I've lived in Korea for nearly 2 years now, I've had no choice but to learn more about their culture. As you can see here, I celebrate their holidays, I play their games, I eat their food, and I can read and speak their language. I've taken the time to educate myself by asking questions. I ask my co-teachers and the admins how to say a phrase. I ask other foreigners who can put some cultural differences into perspective, just different questions. I've gone to language exchanges to learn how to better speak Korean. Sometimes I'll even ask the kids how to say a word or two. If this was an American school, I understand that I will have to work much harder to learn about the different ethnicities of my students by speaking with them and asking them maybe like who their role models are. But that's not the position I found myself in. So overall, I would say I've gone to great lengths to learn about the Korean culture. To address the gender aspect of this, I'm going to tell you what I would do. In kindergarten, gender hasn't begun to really take a strong hold in the classroom. If I was in an older classroom, though, like I was last year, I would first and foremost find out who the students idolize. It can be gender specific, but more importantly, it gives me an idea of who the student wants to be. Finally, I'm not going to go back over the learning differences here. If you want to get a glimpse of my perspective in this regard, you can refer back to Module 8, Units 3 and 9. Thanks.